there's a lot of people on this call. There's a lot of on this panel and watching this, and there's going to be a lot of people who watch the replay of it. They're not all people who eat a whole food plant-based diet. There are people of all types with all different levels of interest in food. And they don't have, some of them care about the environment, some care about animals, but in general, there's a lot of different people. For the people who are not thinking about the environment at this moment, for the people who are not thinking about the animals, who are saying, I love food, I love the way it tastes, what are we actually saying is the benefit to their health of a whole food plant-based diet that you advocate? In other words, what are you saying in terms of weight loss? What are you saying in terms of blood sugar? What are you saying in terms of high blood pressure? Is this going to avoid heart disease? Is it going to avoid cancer? In other words, it's not going to make people grow a third arm. It doesn't make people grow hair back. There are limitations, so I don't want to exaggerate the benefits. Tell everyone, the reason we don't smoke cigarettes is the cost benefit's very low. You whatever benefit you get, it's clearly doesn't outweigh the negative that you get very sick from it. So when it comes to a whole food plant-based diet, for someone who says, I love my regular food, I have no interest in changing, what are we saying? They're obviously not believing there's enough benefit. So not the hype, but what is the study say? What is going to happen to someone who for the next 5 years switches to a whole food plant-based diet? Are they going to not have heart attacks? Are they going to have a blood sugar that's good? Are they going to lose weight? Are they going to prevent cancer? Are they going to prevent Alzheimer's? What can you say from your research and results that you get from a whole food plant-based diet, and what do you not get? And then everyone could decide for themselves whether they want to get involved in this. But for all those people that say, I like chicken, I like fish, I like dairy, I like eggs, what are we selling? What are we promising? We're not selling and promising anything, but what are we suggesting that the research supports they will benefit and get if they follow your advice?
You're looking for the magic words to speak and the amulet to wave over the patient's forehead. And yes, doctor, I see the light. I will now become a whole food vegan. My high school basketball coach said, you gotta wanna, unless you want something, nothing happens. And whether it's driving for a basket on the court, or deciding to get your body healthier. And the person who's, I like my chicken, I like my steak, they don't want them at this point. Now, life has a way of working their way into their life situation and kind of increasing their wanna meter a little bit when they notice that chest pain or that big pot belly or the loss of vision in their eye temporarily. They start getting the signals that all is not well. And so, if they find their way to Dr. Popper's office or my office, there's already somebody's been working on them. They've got, the doors open a little bit. They wouldn't be sitting there. They wouldn't be tuned into this conference. So they have some concern about their health. And then, this is when the art of medicine comes in. Dr. Popper knows well. Everybody's different. You got to meet them where they're at. Why you got to find out their why. Why are you sitting here? Why? What is it that makes you want to be at all interested in eating healthier or whatever they're doing? Well, this chest pain. My father dropped dead last week. My aunt just got diagnosed with colon cancer, and it's in our family. Whatever it is, then that's where you meet them and you talk for real about it and how their current diet is playing a major role in bringing that very thing they fear to reality. I invite your viewers to go back to the presentation I gave yesterday on making disease reversal work for you. And I talked about the concept of the red tide, which is what floods through our tissues hour after hour. Every meal based on meats and dairy and oils and sugars and processed foods sends this tide of molecules, oxidized cholesterol, reactive aldehydes, carcinogens, mutagens, pesticides, herbicides, new 5-GC endotoxins. This tide of toxic molecules sweeps through our tissues meal after meal, day after day, month after month, year after year. And as time goes by, it creates the diseases that we're looking at. These are not random events. These diseases, obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, they don't fall out of a tree on you at age 50. They're created meal by meal, argument by argument, stressful day by stressful day, cigarette after cigarette, drink after drink. The steady onslaught of insults to our body eventually damages the machinery. Fortunately, it's a self-repairing machinery. If we give it the chance, it's stunning how much the body can compensate and come back from these injuries. But first, the person's got to see their role in the disease. It's not a matter of blaming someone to point out to a smoker who's scorching their lungs 20, 30 times a day and now is short of breath or coughing up blood, that the two have something to do with each other, not blaming, it's just biology. And so you explain the biology. I spend a lot of time drawing pictures out of my office about what their diet is doing, or the smoking or the drinking or whatever. And then we start finding substitutions. You like spaghetti? Yeah, how about you can make a great pasta primavera with vegetables instead of meatballs. You can order the bean chili instead of the beef chili. You start artfully modifying. Oh, I could eat that, and they hopefully will encounter some really delicious plant-based food, and slowly, especially as the weight starts coming off and the joints stop hurting, and the skin clears up and the blood pressure comes down, and get them off some pills. Then they start seeing the whole picture and the role that diet and lifestyle plays in it. But everybody's different. And that's one reason why this conference is so important, and what Dr. Popper is doing is so important, because as much as she and I love clinical medicine and helping people one at a time, it's retail medicine. It's too slow. You've got to reach thousands, millions of people with this message. And that's why these conferences play such a key role at this point, because you can reach thousands of people and they can replay it again and again. So I'm very grateful for this, a very high form of medicine we're practicing here. So again, you want that, yeah, but you can't count people out how many times, and I'm sure Dr. Popper knows that a husband and wife will come in, the wife's got concerned about her weight or whatever, and the guy's sitting there and he's not listening, he's looking all around, and you figure this guy is never gonna change. And you see him 3 months later, and the guy comes back. He doesn't recognize him. He's lost 30 pounds. Hey, doc, I decided to try that food you're talking about. And gee, I got off my pills, and my internist can't believe it. And you never know what people hear. You never know who's ready. The best you can do is offer the truth as lovingly as you can, offer as much support, get plant-based dietitians involved, get health coaches involved, give them classes, cooking classes, show them videos. Those who want this much, if they want a little bit, you can make it enough so they make the key changes they have to. So that's the art of medicine. It's a service endeavor, and it's changing in the 21st century as we're all sitting in different places in the country. But the message is the same. Health comes from healthy living. And it's a matter of how you're going to help people help do that. And that's what all of us on this call are about.
Yeah, I agree. And you made a couple comments, Dr. Klaper, that I think are important when you were talking about the bean chili instead of the beef chili. I think a lot of people's preconceived notions about this is they're going to live on tree bark and acorns, or I'm going to eat salads and fruit. And they think about that. It's so appalling to them. And I think that we have to really, and I think a lot of people in our field do a very good job of making people fall in love with the food, and that's part of it, because I think that the very first social experience that humans had together was sharing a meal, and so we can't just make food, calories and nutrients on a plate. It doesn't matter. Just fill your belly and go back to work, right? That's not going to work. So there's a social significance to food. There's an enjoyment part of food. People look forward to meals, and they can continue to do that. This isn't giving that up and leaving it behind in order to be healthy. Steve, you asked a question about, guarantee, am I not going to have a heart attack? Am I not going to get cancer? And this is the way I explain all of this to people. I drive a car, most people do. All right, so I have insurance and my car is relatively new and I make sure it's in good shape and I fasten my seatbelt and I drive the speed limit and I stop at the stop sign and I live across the street from a school. I'm uber careful because there are kids all over the place, right? So you do everything right driving a car. And most of the time that works out pretty well. You can't do anything about the bus that runs the red light and hits your car and kills you, right? No matter how careful you are. That's exactly the same thing if you decide to control your health with food and lifestyle, diet and lifestyle change. You do everything right. And I think we've all seen some people who did everything right and they still got cancer, did everything right and they still had a heart attack. But that's the exception, not the rule. Most people do not get hit by a bus, all right, who are careful drivers, all right? And most of the time, people who take care of themselves don't have heart attacks and they don't get cancer. So the odds are on your side, but there are no guarantees. I think one thing that we've done in our office that really I think has helped. I don't know about everybody else, but I think at one point in time, I spent a lot of time in the convincing business in this field. And one of the things that we've done, and it goes to our business model, which is informed decision making, is I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to show you a lot of research, and I'm going to show you how to read the research so you can do this on your own. And then you decide what you want to do. So sometimes, I'm sure, Dr. Klaper, you've seen this. Somebody says, well, I'm not ready to do this, or I'm not ready to do that. I tell them, I don't know what you're ready to do, but I'll tell you what I think it might be a good next step. Start looking into it. Start looking at studies and research and that sort of thing. And at the end of the day, you're going to make of it what you make of it. And then you can make your decision. And I think one of the things that I've done that has maybe made me sane, I don't know if it's made other people more sane, is just to get detached from the outcome. And I've often told people we kind of look at ourselves as being similar to real estate agents who don't tell you where to live, but make it easier for you to buy a house. So somebody could come to my house where I am right now and say, well, all those trees, my gosh, you must rake leaves all fall long, right? And a big center hall like that, I would never invest in a house with so much real estate tied up in a room you couldn't sit in. Well, this is a bad place for some people to live. It's great for me, all right? And so allowing people to make their own decision, have ownership of the situation, I think is somewhat helpful. And that means sometimes you have to watch people go through a process that's painful to watch because I don't know, sometimes want to say, this could be all over so much faster if you just like make this big leap. But making the transition, however they make it, based on how they look at this is, I think, real important to longevity, sticking with it. And a less perfect diet that's sustained and going in the right direction. I've always operated under this philosophy too. If you take a step in the right direction, you can prod somebody to take another one and another one and another one. But if we blow them out of the water and they're not in the game, well, then we've done something that's real problematic. So I like your approach. You show them a lot of stuff. You give them a lot of information. And then it goes where it goes. And I don't even, like you said, the guy who says, I'm never doing this and comes back 3 months later and he's doing it, right? Yeah. And so sometimes just the not forcefulness of it is real important.
But what exactly is the sales pitch? In other words, how much less cancer, heart disease, diabetes, dementia, obesity, arthritis, chronic kidney disease, osteoporosis will I get? If someone is sitting at home saying, I like what I'm doing, leave me alone, I'm fine. I'm just saying, what is the sales pitch? Are you saying that you will get 5% less disease? Are you saying heart disease will go down by I feel by not smoking, my chances of lung cancer are going to go down by 80, 90, who knows what percent. What are you saying? Forget about motivating people. Just what are the percentages is best to your ability from all your experience of how much less likely they are to get each of the top 50 diseases?
Well, before we wade into the numbers game here, we've got to look at things biologically. These diseases that we're struggling with, the obesity, diabetes, hypertension, they should never happen. You raise a child on a whole food plant-based diet, and I've delivered 3 generations now of vegan babies who've grown up and they turn into lean, healthy people with normal blood pressure, normal blood sugars. and they don't develop clogged arteries, don't develop high blood pressure, don't develop abdominal obesity. These diseases shouldn't happen. That's our natural state. And you go around to the blue zones or the Yanomamis in the Amazon. They make it to old age, lean and healthy and active. And the folks on the Greek islands and Okinawa, they live these lives of activity and social connection, but physical work and a largely plant-based diet. And they make it to their 90s, 100, lean and active. And that's what's supposed to happen. That's the lifespan of a normal Homo sapien. All the rest of these diseases are this bizarre Western distortion of human physiology from this abnormal food stream that just pours meat and dairy and oil and sugar and salt, hour after hour for year after year. It blows us up. And you're saying, well, how much less of that if we eat healthy? Well, it's how much you can return back to that normal configuration, that normal state of function that you should have been in all along. All of us should have. The folks in the Amazon rainforest, they're old people. They have blood pressures of 100 over 60, like they did when they were kids. It should not. These diseases shouldn't develop. So. When you ask what's the percentage, Dr. Klaper and I have both seen, and all of us docs who work in lifestyle medicine, plant-based medicine, certainly it blew me away 38 years ago. In my own body, I stopped eating animal products, and within 12 weeks, a 20-pound spare tire of fat melted off my belly. My high blood pressure went to normal. My high cholesterol went normal. I felt great waking up in a nice, lean, light body every day. And so I left my anesthesia residency when I went back to general practice, started working with my patients using the same diet. And again, now hundreds of times over the decades, we've seen the same changes predictable within days of adopting a whole food plant-based diet, the salads and soups and the veggies and the curries and the chilies and the stews and all the wonderful foods without all the meat and dairy and oils and all of that. Within days, the obesity starts to melt away. The arteries start to relax and open up. The high blood pressures come down. The inflamed joints stop hurting. The psoriatic skin starts to clear up. The asthmatic lungs stop wheezing so much. The migraine headaches start getting better. And they turn into normal people right in front of your eyes. So you want to put a numbered grid on that, how much improvement, again, everybody's different, depends where they started. But if you had a nice gasoline burning engine sports car, but you've been putting diesel fuel in it, kerosene, and it's running rough and black smoke is coming out the back and it's coughing and sputtering. And then you take it to the garage and they clean out your spark plugs and your fuel line and put in a high test gasoline, runs great. Well, what did you see? You just put in the right fuel and the engine responds. And the same thing, we are plant-eating hominids. We are not carnivorous apes, unlike whatever the keto and the paleo folks are trying to tell us. We have the same basic digestive system that our gorilla and bonobo cousins have, and they're up in the trees eating leaves and fruit. So we have fingers on our hands, not claws. We've got small mouths and flat grinding molar teeth and rotary jaws for grinding up fiber. We've got long intestines for digesting fiber. And we've got in our saliva, we've got starch digesting enzymes. It's clear we're plant-eating creatures. And as long as we keep that whole food, plant-based food stream going through meal after meal, floods our tissues with these phytonutrients and these antioxidants that quench free radicals. It runs more water through our system. It dilates our blood vessels. It fosters tissue repair and stability of our cell membranes. It turns us back into the Homo sapiens we should have been all along before we distorted it with the wrong fuel. So yes, there's a huge drop, and the odds of getting a stroke go way down as the plaque melts away from the arteries. The odds of developing diabetes goes way down as your insulin receptors open up, as that fat clears out of your muscles and your liver. The odds of developing inflammatory joint disease go way down as your gut heals and less inflammatory molecules flow through your joint membranes. The gut wall gets healthier as your microbes change, so the odds of developing Crohn's or colitis goes way down. All these diseases, when you stop hitting yourself in the head with a hammer, the headache goes away. Is that profound medicine? These diseases, if you stop with the steady insults, the body heals. It doesn't want to be inflamed. It doesn't want to be clogged up. It wants to be who we were when we were younger, and as we acquire our wisdom and life's lessons, now we get smarter and use our bodies better, and we enjoy this precious life that we have. You don't want to spend it as a medical patient. There's no power in that. You take your own health back, as Dr. Popper's inviting us to do, and it starts with the food you're putting through your system meal after meal. That's square one. And yes, everything else goes along with it. You need to get enough sleep. You need to get out. You need to exercise. You need to have loving relationships. Get out in nature every day. Absolutely, those are all important too. But man, that plant-based diet, until you adopt that, nothing else is going to work, as Dr. Popper said. So yes, you can offer. Everybody's different, and life has no guarantees. And it's tricky to play the numbers game. Just the patients know it; they feel it within a week or two. They know their bowels are working, their breath is better, they got more energy, they're sleeping better. It doesn't take long. It's not 6 months or 2 years down the road. Within a few days, certainly within a few weeks, you start feeling it. And then let the numbers take care of themselves. They're going to be a healthier person, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah. I agree with you, echo all of that. I guess, Steve, the first thing I wanted to comment on is the person with arms folded who doesn't want to do it. Boy, if we ever come up with a solution for that, I think
Call me.
magic dust. Yeah. I don't think we have a solution for that. And once in a while, people will say something, well, maybe those people should take supplements or something, because that would be better than nothing. And I tell people, listen, there's no solution for people who aren't interested in improving their health or who think they've already got it all figured out, right? If we were doing a financial planning seminar tonight and somebody said, well, what do you do for people who just won't save money? Well, I don't have a solution for people who won't save money. You're going to have a very difficult retirement if that's what you end up doing, right? So I think we have to first talk to people who are interested and make sure that we're not trying to talk people who aren't interested into doing this. I think the second thing is that I agree also with what Dr. Klaper said, that it depends on the person. So an individual who's 25 years old and sees one of the great documentaries out there and says, boy, that I want to protect myself with diet, their risk ratio, it goes down almost to nothing, unless, again, you're looking at the outlier being hit by a bus. But if you're 45 years old and you've had a heart attack and you're overweight and you're taking a couple of medications, you maybe had a stent, you're going to reduce your risk, but you've done enough damage to your body. This is your best chance of staying alive, but your odds are a little bit different because of the state that you're in at the time that you start. And I think that's why you see neither of us wanting to be very specific about saying you can reduce your risk of a heart attack by X%, but it's still just the best option for people to do. But the last thing I wanted to say, which is really interesting, it happened here in Ohio. Many, many years ago, I want to say like 20 years ago, I wrote an article on it. And a gorilla at one of the zoos in northeastern Ohio died of a heart attack. Gorillas in the wild do not die of heart attacks. But what happened was this gorilla died, and they started the zoo personnel and all the veterinarians that take care of the animals. They came up with this novel theory, and you kind of can't keep a straight face when you say this, that maybe if they fed the animals what they eat in the wild, they wouldn't have heart attacks. Go figure. So what is the right diet for a gorilla? Well, it's a lot of fruit and leaves and all that sort of thing, which brings me to, and by the way, this ended death by heart attack in gorillas in American zoos when they arrived at this conclusion that they should feed the animals what's right for the species. So the right diet for human beings is very easy to scientifically prove. It's what the blue zones are eating. It's you see stark differences in disease rates, even by state in the United States, based on differences in eating patterns. So again, if you just let people look at the evidence, it becomes very, very clear what the right diet for the human species is. And it's different than a carnivore like a cat or a cheetah. It's different than rabbits and skunks and deer. I mean, there is a different diet for different species. And so we are a species designed to live on plants, and the further away we get from that, the more likely we are to have serious health issues.